The Tigers are coming off another very successful football season, and the fine people in Memphis now have really big things to look forward to. With the expanded college football playoff field, the Memphis Tigers are absolutely a player to get there with a very experienced, very good returning quarterback, a head coach that can take you there, and a roster full of talent. Can Memphis be a player in the race for a college football playoff spot in 2024? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. I'd like to welcome you to my channel and welcome you to prediction season. It's where I predict all 134 FBS level college football teams, and you know I love showing love to the group of five. We're starting to mix them in here. We're on to the Memphis Tigers. Thank you so much for supporting prediction season. If I haven't done your favorite team yet, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. I want to thank you for watching this video. It helps support my channel in more ways than you can even imagine, but there are countless number of ways you can help support this channel, and pretty much interacting with it any way you can helps to support it in pretty much every single way possible. Liking, commenting, sharing, watching my other videos, of course, subscribing. Again, it means a lot to me, so whatever you guys are willing and able to do, I appreciate all the support that you guys have continued to give me over prediction season, and we are now on to the Memphis Tigers. How do we talk about teams in 2024? I am glad that you asked. We're going to take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the team's defense, and at the end of the video, we will go through the Tiger football schedule and give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. A couple more things that I want to say before we do start. Right over here are going to be the stats the team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And for your viewing pleasure, dear viewer, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. I'll waste no more time. Let's start talking about the Memphis offense. It was one of the better offenses in the American Athletic Conference last season, and it will be again in 2024. Even though Tevin Carter is gone, a quarterback from last season that only threw 5 passes, granted, he did throw an 85-yard touchdown, 101 yards. Yeah, okay, you can push that all aside because Seth Hennigan is coming back for another year with this program. He wants to take the Memphis Tigers to the college football playoff, and boy, does he have the talent to do it. 3,883 passing yards with 32 touchdowns and 9 interceptions last season. He has improved and improved and improved every single year. Back in 2021, 3,300 yards. Well, that showed you a lot right there. 2022, 3,500 yards. Last year, 3,800 yards. And it is nowhere near out of the realm of possibility that he can reach 4,000 yards in 2024. It is exceptionally plausible. Cade Cunningham, no, not the former Oklahoma State and Detroit Piston basketball player. Cade Cunningham, the Memphis quarterback, is back, and Harris Boyd back in this room as well. But you know good and well as much as I do that Seth Hennigan is going to be the leader of this offense. He is a very, very good player with this arm. Oh, and by the way, if he has to, he can use his legs pretty effectively as well. Had 5 rushing touchdowns last season, 2.9 yards per carry. But yes, sack numbers are affected in there as well, and he was sacked 19 times last season. Nonetheless, he's a very talented quarterback and one of, if not the best quarterback in the group of 5 ranks. Seth Hennigan will be an exceptional player for Memphis again in 2024. You do lose, though, some really good talent in the skill position room. Most notably is Blake Watson. 1,152 yards and 14 touchdowns on 192 carries last season. Another really good running back to come out of this Memphis program. And he sadly... not sadly for him, but again, you lose him from this program. You can see him playing on Sundays. And the former Northern Illinois transfer that just didn't play as big a role as people expected him to coming over here in Jay Ducker has left through the transfer portal. He has found himself a new home. So you do get Sutton Smith and Brandon Thomas to come back here in this room. Smith and Thomas were the second and third leading rushers among running backs last season. And actually, Brandon Thomas had 9 rushing touchdowns last season. They love to utilize him in those red zone packages, as they probably will do so again this upcoming season. But you do get a transfer over from South Carolina in Mario Anderson that is projected to be your starter here in 2024. I really like Mario Anderson. I think he is a good player. I think you might have a 1A, 1B situation with Smith and Anderson here with this Tiger team, but nonetheless, the majority of the carries probably will end up going to the P5 transfer in Mario Anderson, but this is a good running back room the Tigers have this season. Joseph Skates has gone to the NFL. Skates last season, 414 yards, 6 touchdowns, one of the better wide receivers on this team last season. And you do lose Toski Dove to the transfer portal, 17 catches, 260 yards, and a touchdown for him last season. So who do you return? Well, I'm glad you asked. You return a ton of phenomenal weapons here. Oh, and by the way, Blake Watson, yeah, he was this team's third leading receiver, did have 53 catches out of the backfield, but nonetheless, Rock Taylor is back. 1,000-yard receiver from last year who had 1,083 yards, 4 touchdowns on a team high 69 catches. You also do get Demir Blakency back, another candidate. You could have 2,000-yard receivers here on this team this year. Blakency was just 100 yards off, 901 yards to be exact, with a team high 7 receiving touchdowns last season on 53 catches. Kobe Drake, Marcelo Bussey also come back to this team. And what do you know? You get some really talented pieces over from the transfer portal. This is a pretty darn deep, wide receiver room because Jair Shorter, well, he is coming over from Auburn, a former North Texas transfer as well, while Jacoby Banks is coming over from Houston. So those are two very talented transfers coming in to help boost up a wide receiver room that already has a lot of very talented returning pieces. And no notable losses in the tight end room, huh? How about that? Anthony Landfear, I hopefully am saying that last name right. I probably butchered it, so I apologize. Brendan Doyle and Jamari Chisholm are all back in this tight end room. And with Jacob Likes gone to the NFL off the offensive line, I don't believe he's signed anywhere yet. I think he's just been invited to mini camps, although that could have changed since yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say. That definitely could have changed. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd be very curious. Really good offensive lineman for them. And McKalen Pounders and Davion Carter, 2 starters from last year, gone through the transfer portal. So who comes back? Well, not a whole lot of returners. You get Jonah Garnbill, Xavier Hill, Mitchell Glidehouse back, but you do get a lot of pieces coming in through the portal. Jalen Nichols, Trent Holler, Keydrell Lewis, Calvin McMillan, Jonathan Young, and Isaiah Reed all come into this program in the offensive line room. And I'll just tell you, again, in no particular order, where these guys are coming from. Memphis, Old Dominion, South Carolina, Louisville, and Louisiana Monroe, or ULM. So they're getting transfers from a lot of different places here. And a combination of those 9 guys should be your starting offensive line here in 2024. Okay, overall, let's talk about this team for the Memphis Tigers offensively. We know what Seth Hennigan is, very good quarterback. I'd be interested to see what the kind of replacement plan looks like for Blake Watson, who was a very talented back last year, but the wide receiver room is absolutely loaded. You have some very good tight ends. This offense will be explosive, aggressive, and one of the better ones in the American Athletic yet again in 2024. When you switch over to the defensive side of the ball, okay, yeah, this is where Memphis starts to get a little tricky to figure out. There are a lot of questions on the defensive side of the ball because last year, it just wasn't as good of a defense as a lot of fans in Memphis, Tennessee would have liked to hope for from this group. They allowed over 28 points per game, over 400 yards per game, darn near 425 yards per game. The secondary was not great. The rush defense was not great. You go ahead and take a look at what this team did in terms of sacks and turnovers. I mean, they didn't do horrible, but you'd like to see more than 23 sacks. 20 turnovers is actually a pretty solid number, and they do lose a lot of talent off of this team, including, we'll start out with the defensive line, Jalen Allen from last season. Really good defensive lineman for them at 41 tackles and 2 sacks. He is gone. Jar Anderson, who had double-digit tackles last year with 10 of them, a sack and a half, gone through the portal, and Josh Ellison and Andres Fox, 2 guys that, again, pretty solid players on this defensive line for them. Ellison had 30 tackles last season. And Fox, double-digit tackles with 13 and a sack and a half. All those guys are gone due to graduation, and those are your losses on the defensive line. You do get Cormonte Hamilton coming back, though, 35 tackles and 2 sacks last season. Again, the sack numbers kind of distributed all throughout this Memphis team last year. There really was no one guy that stood out in terms of sacks. Again, 23 sacks. I don't think anyone had more than 3 on this team last season, but Hamilton's a guy that can rush the quarterback really well. Keviante Spears, William Whitlow, and Derek Hunter all come back, while you get Patrick Lewis and Devin Baldwin to come in and bring some depth in through the transfer portal. I'll tell you where they're coming from here. Devin Baldwin is coming over from Jacksonville State. You also do get Patrick Lucas, again, as I said, coming over from Indiana. But there are a lot more defensive linemen coming into this team that could play some big minutes. Reggie Grimes is an edge rusher coming over here from, coming over from Oklahoma. DJ Allen is coming over from Purdue. Richard Kinley is in from Middle Tennessee State. Javon Dennis is coming in from Georgia State. So there are a lot of transfers coming into this defensive line room. Again, those are the 2 guys that were highest up on the depth chart according to OurLads.com. Linebacker room, my apologies, not Jeff Canton Arku is gone to the NFL. I actually believe that he is in the CFL now as well. I think he got selected in the first round there. Either way, very talented linebacker that you do lose. 79 tackles, a sack, 2 pass defended, 1 interception, was the team's second leading tackler last season. You also do lose Sincere Evans out of this room as well. He's run out of eligibility and graduated. 35 tackles and the sack for him last season. Chandler Martin does come back, though. He was your leading tackler, 94 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 passes defended, 2 interceptions for him last season. Bryce Edmondson is another guy that's going to be coming back in this linebacker room, but a lot of transfers come into this linebacker room. Javonte Mackey, Matt Hudson, Wesley Scott, and Jaden Flaker all come in through different programs through the transfer portal. Again, this team brought in a ton of defensive transfers. Again, the defensive line there, I only put 2. There are so many more. Some really good talent comes into the linebacker room as well. And you do have some really good talent coming into the defensive back room as well. But we got to talk about what they lost first. Each of the cornerback room and safety room lost 1 due to graduation, 1 due to the transfer portal. Malik Feaster is gone due to graduation out of the cornerback room. Feaster last season, 16 tackles, 4 pass defended. Pretty solid corner during his time in Memphis, while Diago Brumfield is gone through the transfer portal. 42 tackles and led the team with 10 passes defended last season. So big losses in the cornerback room. Simeon Blair was the team's 3rd leading tackler, 63 tackles, 5 pass defended, 2 picks. He is gone. Cam Smith has also gone through the transfer portal. The team's 4th leading tackler, 57 tackles. Reading the wrong stat line there. 57 tackles, 6 pass defended, led the team with 3 interceptions last season out of the safety room. Okay, that's a ton of names, a lot of very talented names leaving the defensive back room. So who returns for this team? Well, not a lot of transfers come into play corner for this team. So Julian Barnett, DL Bell. I believe that's supposed to be DJ Bell. 1 second. You just got to flip the L around and it becomes a J. So the DJ Bell coming back, Tyron Taylor, Davion Ross, all those guys return to play corner. You have Ndarius Coffey and Greg Rubin. Greg Rubin especially, very, very talented player, 52 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 pass defended from the safety position last season. He comes back, and a lot of guys come in the safety room through the portal. Corshan Marsh, Taj Rael, AJ Watts, and Jordan Greer all enter this program and should play big minutes in the safety room. And kickers are people too. You have to show them some love. Reed Bauer has gone to the NFL to do some punting duties, while Seth Morgan has left through the transfer portal. I believe he's the kicker at Tulsa now. Tanner Gillis is back as a punter, kicker, kind of kicking extraordinaire, while you do get replacements primarily each position through the transfer portal. Joshua Sloan's over from UTEP to punt, and Caden Costa from Ole Miss to kick. Again, questions arise about this defense that Jordan Hankins has here, but this is a defense that, again, especially if these transfers can mesh, and especially if a lot of things work out a lot better than they did last season, this Memphis defense should improve. And again, with how good this offense is, if they get into a shootout, you want this defense to step up and make some plays. I need more sacks. I need the secondary to improve. I even want the rush defense to improve as well, while keeping that 3rd down conversion percentage around, if not even lower than it was last season. But the defense overall has got to take some steps forward this upcoming season. We'll run through the schedule a little quicker than usual since I rambled on a little bit there. But hey, you guys know how we do schedules around here. Anything at home will be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics or that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Memphis Tigers should win easily, as they should in week 1 against North Alabama. They should have no trouble with that one. So we'll quickly move on past that. Any game in yellow, like this game against Troy, that I'll talk about here in just a little bit, is going to be a close competitive game, but hey, I still think Memphis should be able to win, while any game in red is a loss, like this game against the Florida State Seminoles. Okay, so you got all the spectrum of color right away. They should easily beat North Alabama in week 1, but Troy in week 2. Let's talk about this one a little bit, because I still like Troy, even though John Sumrall is gone, and there are a lot of pieces leaving this Troy team, right? Well, you go ahead and take a look at what Troy still has. I still think they're going to be a fairly competitive team in the Sun Belt Conference. I think this is the game that you could put in green if you wanted to. I'm going to put it in yellow because I still like some of the talent that is on this Troy team, and I still like a lot of the pieces that they have, and I think they can be competitive, but there's no doubt in my mind that Memphis will walk away with the win. There's also no doubt in my mind that Florida State will walk away with the win in week 3. And it's not that I think Memphis is capable of pulling off this win. And what an interesting storyline, huh? Mike Norvell's going to go coach against his former program. How about that? But Florida State, yes, they lost a lot of talent last year. Jordan Travis, Keon Coleman, a ton of defensive pieces gone. DJU is coming in. They still got some really talented pieces there in the running back room and the wide receiver room. Some really talented pieces on defense, led by a former Virginia defensive back in Fentrell Cypress, with even more transfers coming into that program. And Florida State will still be one of the better teams in the ACC and in the country this year. I really like the Seminoles this season. That should be a loss for the Memphis Tigers. I think Florida State will be able to win, but the Tigers keep it close and competitive, I do think, again, because a lot of the offensive talent that is here. You have to go on the road and play the Navy Midshipmen, who are going to play a little bit different style of football here. They are kind of switching up formations, going away from the traditional triple offense, maybe mixing in some more passing as well. And overall, I like a lot of the talent that Navy has this year. I think they're going to be a solid, pretty competitive team. Again, Armed Forces teams, though, are usually the teams that are really, really hard to judge, as I think Navy will be this year. Again, I think they're going to be competitive this season. Enough to beat the Memphis Tigers? No. Even with them having home field advantage here, I still like Seth Hennigan, and this wide receiver room should perform really, really well against this Navy secondary. I like Memphis to win that game. Hey, Middle Tennessee is a game highlighted here in yellow, and although I think Memphis should win this game in all likelihood, watch out for Nick Vattiato at quarterback. He's one of the lesser talked about quarterbacks throughout the country just because of who he plays for, but he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the group of five realm. And if this Memphis defense, especially in the secondary, cannot get better, he can have a field day against this team. And who knows, Middle Tennessee's got some good offensive pieces. They have some really good defensive pieces of their own. They could keep that game really close and competitive. I think Middle Tennessee going to be a really solid team this year, but Memphis, I do think, pulls away with the win. Okay, you take a look now as you get into a full slate of American Athletic Conference games. You got some really tricky road games here. South Florida is up first. Then you have to go on the road to play UTSA. You have to go on the road to play Tulane as well. Even that road game against Navy is going to be tricky, and I think they lose at least one. I think this one right here against the South Florida Bulls is a prime candidate to end up with your second loss of the season. Byron Brown really exploded as a good quarterback for them last season. They have a lot of returning skill position pieces. The defense should be better than it was last season as well, even though the defense, to my knowledge, was pretty solid for South Florida last season. That's a scary team. You have to watch out for them. When you underestimate teams like that, you're going to get bit. While I don't think Memphis underestimates them, I do think USF comes away with the win on a Friday night on home turf to hand Memphis their second loss of 2024. But I think they win their next two games after that. While North Texas, I still think I could see being a solid team this year, they lose a lot. They lose a lot of running back pieces, wide receiver pieces. Their quarterback from last year in Chandler Rogers is now off to the Power 5. I can't remember off the top of my head where he went, but he'll compete for a starting job wherever he went. This is a North Texas team that, again, I still think is going to be feisty. Still think you got to watch out for, but they lost a lot of talent. I think Memphis is going to be able to win that one. And Charlotte, while I can see minimal improvements for Biff Poggy's squad in 2024, I still don't think Charlotte's going to be that competitive, and they definitely won't be good enough to beat the Memphis Tigers. UTSA, they have some good pieces coming in through the transfer portal, and overall, I still like a lot of the talent that UTSA has. However, all that being said, there's no more Frank Harris at quarterback. You're going to turn it over to Josh McCown's son and Owen McCown, but they do have some good wide receiver transfers, some good running back transfers. The defense should still be solid, and you get a former highly recruited player in Denver Harris to come in and play cornerback for that team. But overall, I don't think they're going to be as good as they have been the past couple of seasons. I think Memphis, especially that defense, again, if it doesn't get better, UTSA can give them fits. But overall, I do think I see Memphis improving enough defensively to get past a lot of the transfers coming in for UTSA. And again, without Frank Harris, who knows what Owen McCown brings here. He'll be a very talented player, but I think Memphis outduels UTSA on the road in San Antonio. They win their final two games at home against the Rice Owls and against the UAB Blazers fairly comfortably. And while both of those teams, I think, are going to be solid in their own respects in the American Athletic, and two teams that absolutely can push for a bowl game, Rice will still be solid as they were last year, but not enough talent or speed to keep up with this Memphis team. And for UAB, they won't be as bad as they were last year, not good enough to beat Memphis. And I have Memphis winning their final game of the year on the road against the Tulane Green Wave. Not only is this game. Well, I should say, not only does Memphis have an extra week of preparation for this game, Tulane lost a lot last year. And while the Green Wave are going to be very talented this year, and Yulman Stadium does matter, that is a game in which I could see Memphis losing. I just think they end up winning that game there, which leads me to a record of 10-2 for the Tigers, absolutely putting them in contention to go compete for a spot in the college football playoff. Now, maybe you need to go undefeated in conference play in order to do that, because Boise State's going to be good, Liberty's going to be there, but Memphis is absolutely a team as long as Seth Hennigan's at quarterback, and I think if I see even minimal improvement from this defense from last year, you got to watch out for the Tigers and expect them to make a push for your 12-team college football playoff bracket. Let me know what you think about the Tigers in the comment section below. And as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. We'll move on and talk about the Mississippi State Bulldogs up next. Goodbye.